What is up guys, Cybermage here, and in this video we are going to be doing Escalate GCP privileges with implicit delegation. So the scenario is a GCP service account key has been found leaked on Pastebin after some time, and the client has asked for our help to identify the blast radius and potential impact of the compromised account. Your objective is to see if you can escalate privileges from the service account and access sensitive data. So I've already gone ahead and connected to the VPN, and I've also downloaded the resource file that's given, which is this zip file over here. I'm going to go ahead and unzip this, and it's going to have our access key over here, the service account access key that we need. And let's go ahead and authenticate to G-Cloud first using this service account. Now the walkthrough usually starts us off with doing service account list. I think it's kind of impractical to start off this way. It's usually better to see what permissions we have as the service account. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And the way that we do it is we're first going to start off by getting the policy attached at the project level and looking for permissions related to our user, which is this SV1. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And we see we have this role that's attached to our service account, which is custom front end app dev role. So in this scenario, we would probably want to describe this role and see what permission this custom role gives us. So let's go ahead and try to do that. And here we have it. We have all these permissions. So nothing really interesting, but we do have the ability to list service accounts, which is what we're going to do right now. We're going to see if we have any permissions on these accounts. So let's go ahead and do that. But before we continue, I do want to point out one thing, that when looking for policies or permissions that we have, sometimes these permissions are not attached at the project level and can be attached at the service account level. So if we go ahead and list the permissions which are directly attached at the service account, let's go ahead and do that. We're going to notice that we get the exact same role that's already given at the project level. So right over here. So although this is the same in this case, it doesn't always happen, right? And we're going to see that with the other account that we're going to compromise, that it's not usually or always this case. So it's good to check out both for any permissions that we can find. But yeah, we've noticed that we have this ability to list service accounts. And of course, if we don't have this permission and we want to find the service accounts, we could just list out the policy at the project level. And there's going to be a bunch of service accounts over there, and we can just take note of each one of them. But obviously, it's not going to have all the service accounts, because just as I mentioned, some of those permissions don't need to be attached at the project level and can be attached at the service account level. So therefore, not all permission or service accounts will be at the project level or the policy at the project level. But nevertheless, you will find some over there. But in this case, since we can list service accounts, we're going to be able to get all those that exist. So let's go ahead and do that now. And we're going to put this into a file called serviceaccounts.txt. And I think I did that wrong. I should not have done that, because the thing is, we also get the display name and we get the disabled thing over here, right? This column. But we only need the email for what we are going to do, which is to enumerate permissions on these service accounts. So let's go ahead and remove this serviceaccounts.txt. I'm going to go to my gcrtp directory. I'm going to go ahead and run this command over here. Perfect. Right over here. And now if we go and list the service account that we have, this file, we see that we only have the email, which is actually the necessary piece of information that we're going to be needing for our later enumeration. So from this, we do notice that there is the service account 2 or SV3 as well, which is very similar to our current user, which is SV1. I'm going to call it SV2, SV3, SV1 just because it's more easier. These numbers ahead just make it much more complicated to pronounce, I guess. So yeah, let's go ahead and see what permission this SV2 user has. Since we have the permission to list um, the policy at the project level, let's go ahead and do that. You can see over here, we can list roles, we can get roles, and we can get IAM policies for the service accounts as well. And yeah, project, get IAM policy right over here. And yeah, let's go ahead and change the name of this to SV2 and see if we can find anything. And we don't find anything here. So let's go ahead and check out the permissions that we can find at the service account level. So that is going to be right here, this command. And we do find that our service account, which is SV1, has this role, this custom role for this SV2. So we have this specific permission on this resource, which is this service account. And yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at what this role grants us. So we can just describe it. And we see we have implicit delegation. And that means our user can perform actions on behalf of this user. So we have implicit delegation on this specific resource, this service account. So what implicit delegation allows is pretty much to do, yep, right over here. Implicit delegation allows one user or service account, which is our SV1 user, to perform actions or on behalf of another user or service account, which is SV2. We can perform actions with their permissions without needing explicit consent for each action. This capability is often used in scenarios where an application needs to access GCP resources on behalf of another identity. So we have this implicit delegation permission on this SV2 service account. Let's go ahead and take a look at what SV3 does. So in this scenario, I do want to point out that implicit delegation is really hard to abuse. We can't really use every single permission that SV2 has, but there's specific permissions that we want to look out for, which does allow us to move laterally. This implicit delegation alone does not allow us to move laterally. So it really depends on the permission that SV2 has. And in this case, we're looking for lateral movement permissions such as the get access token, sign JWT, all these type of permissions. So there's a couple of them. I believe there's only several of them that we specifically want to look for to actually abuse this implicit delegation permission. But we're going to move on and check what SV3 has, what permission this count has. So again, we're checking at the project level. And we notice that we have two permissions here, this custom role and custom role 829. Let's go ahead and check at the service account level. There we go. We have this account token creator permission. So, and this is not us as SV1, this is as SV2. So technically, just to recap, our user SV1 right over here has implicit delegation through this role on service account 2. This service account 2 means that we can perform actions on behalf of this account. And we found out that this account has this service account token creator on SV3 right over here. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to use this permission and try to create a token for this SV3 service account, and therefore we would be moving laterally to this account, compromising this user's access token. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to do it through a more uh, automated method just because it's much more easier. And it's probably what I'm going to do on the exam as well. Um, with the manual method, I'm also going to note down the manual method that is mentioned in the lab, which is using curl and stuff like that. But I'm also going to do it the automated method as well. So right here, what I'm going to do is um, let's go ahead to GCP SA brute. I'm going to activate this environment. Nope, never mind. No need to activate it. Do Python 3 GCPA all permissions. And what we're basically doing is we're looking for all permission on the service account.txt file, which is all the usernames or email addresses of these service accounts. So before I do this, I actually have to get my access token. We're going to use gcloud auth print access token. I'm going to assign this to a variable. So let's go ahead and do access token equals, paste this in there, and there we go. I'm going to run this command and we'll see what type of permissions we have on these service accounts. I'm going to go back one directory just because that's where this file is located. So we see it goes through each one of these service accounts and it does find that, hey, we have implicit delegation, So even though we did it manually and we found this out, this is a more automated method to do it and much more quicker. But obviously it's not going to enumerate all the permission. It's just going to enumerate specific permissions for these service accounts, right? So yeah, at this point, we want to abuse this. So we're going to use this tool called delegate perm. And what this is going to do is it's going to take our token, but this time it's going to be in a token.txt file. It's going to use, it's going to delegate. It's going to have a delegate parameter over here, which is the service account we want to delegate, which is right over here. And yeah, from there, we also have the file, which is basically going to check for specific abusable permissions that we specifically those permissions to move laterally. And it's going to check each one of those permissions on every single service account. And one of the permissions which is key is these access token permission that we noticed, right? Above, where is it? Right over here, not access token permission, but this account token creator permission. So this is just one of the permissions, the abusable permissions that we're looking for when we're trying to delegate with another service account. So let's go ahead and try to do nano token.txt. I'm going to copy this before I press enter. Paste this in here. And yeah, we're going to copy this. And we're going to go back one directory again. And you can see it's going through each one of the service accounts and checking for specific permissions such as generate access token, sign JWT for each service account. And we land a hit just like what we found manually, which is with SV3. And we find out that we have actually multiple permissions. So we have sign JWT, sign blob, and this generate access token as well. So this is good as it is. We don't need to do anything else. And we can copy this and we are good to go. So now we have permissions as this service account. So now what we want to do is we want to enumerate what type of permissions this SV3 has. We can go back and try to describe those permissions manually because it did had two other custom roles right over here for SV3. You can go back and check this manually, but we're going to use a tool instead. And let's go ahead and go to that tool, which is called GCP IAM brute. We're going to activate the environment for this. Perfect. We're going to do Python 3 main and yeah. So the service account email is going to be the service account that we are using. And we're also going to have to put this token in a variable. So let's go ahead and try to cancel out of this and do access underscore token. Paste this in there. Oops. No worries. And now we can see all the permission that this specific service account has. We notice a lot of the ability to list objects inside a storage or a bucket, and we can also get those as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We see this everywhere and nothing really special, but we do have this ability to get cloud functions, which is useful. So about cloud functions, let's see over here. So Google Cloud Function code, the code that is used, it gets stored in a Google Cloud Storage bucket. So because it gets stored in a Google Cloud Storage bucket, if we're able to list or find the bucket name, then we can abuse these permissions to get the objects inside a bucket, list the objects inside the bucket, and enumerate the bucket pretty much and get the object. But the thing is, we don't have permissions to list buckets. We don't see any list bucket permissions, which is just key, uh, which, which just means that we need to find out what the bucket name is somehow. We can do this by brute forcing common names with the previous lab that we did. But because we know that it's using cloud function over here, there is a specific format that could be used, right? Which is this specific format. So we can try to guess that, hey, this specific format is being used. Um, yeah, that is pretty much it. Um, so since we need this format, we're going to need the build number and the region for it. Let's go ahead and use this command here. Before that, yeah, actually it's to use this command to get the functions. We can obviously send it directly using the curl command, which is taught in the lab, but I'm going to go ahead and actually use um, a gcloud command. And for that, to use the access token, we're going to need to put that in a token.txt file again for this user. So let's go ahead and do nano token.txt. Perfect. So we can use this to list the functions. You have the get ability here. Again with the get ability. It's strange that I don't see any list permissions that I did want to show. But yeah, maybe it's built in with this get permission. Perhaps that's the case. Why not go ahead and take a look at it right now? Can this list cloud functions? No, so it cannot end. Bro, turn this shit off. So it can't, and we need this specific permission. So although I can't really find it in here, unfortunately. Yeah, we can't really find it in here somewhere, but I am going to see whether these roles can allow it. think I'm going off track for this. Since we're unable to get those specific permissions in this, let's go ahead and try out the other tool that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and actually open another tab. Here, let's go ahead and go to GCP, nope, permission checker. Let's activate this environment, Python 3. And we're going to need the access token. I believe I put that in a variable already. Change this to proj 1. That is strange. I'm going to just put it in manually and see if it works without using a variable. There we go. So this does take some time, so I'm going to pause the video, and when it's done, I'm going to be right back. All right, I got the permission quite quick, and we can see over here we have cloud functions, function list, so we do have that permission. So it's pretty important to always run two tools or different types of tools because usually one is not going to show everything. So yeah, I guess that's the key thing to learn from this. So let's go ahead and try to run that command. And we do have one function called function1. The region is US Central 1. So we're going to note this. We're going to try to also get the build number. So in order to get that, unfortunately it doesn't show over here. But with the simple, I can just do this here. Damn, my hand hurts, man. Okay, let's just leave that for now. And we can still get the build number from running the curl command over here. I'm going to go ahead and actually just run that. And we can see that the build number is right over here. It's given over here. We should be able to also run a command with this to get details on function1. We can literally just go to ChatGPT and get info right over here. So it's actually describe. Okay. And they actually have the command built. So that's great. Let's copy this and run this. And no, that's strange, but we do have this permission. Function.get denied on gr project 1 US Central 1. Function1. GR project. That is strange. We shouldn't have this, and now I know why we have this. Okay. And we forgot this key thing over here. All right then. And there we go. So right here, we do have information on it, and the build number is right over here. So yeah, now that we have the build number and we know the region, which is US Central 1, we can go ahead and try to list um, things inside the bucket, and we will know if it exists as well or not. And there we go. We do find one directory and this MD file. We can also use these curl commands to get more deeper inside the bucket, or we can just navigate using the gcloud CLI, and eventually you're going to find this function source.zip file, and using the access token file flag, we can get this file, make sure it's CP, and the directory we want it in is this current one. So I'm just going to put a dot over there. And unzipping this file, and I don't want to do it over here. Let's just make this called bucket. Let's move function into bucket, and we can unzip this over here to ls, and we find that the flag.txt is inside the zip file. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. This is going to be the last one in the whole series. And yeah, bro, it's been a crazy ride. Hope you guys, or hope these videos helped you guys. And honestly, man, it just feels good to be over with, you know? There's still so much to learn in the cloud, but yeah, it's crazy. So hope you guys succeed in the exam, and honestly, take care and love you all.